And so, in every moment, it is to choose what is true. To be so present here now, that the attention is resting upon the moment so fully that it is all there is. Because this moment is truth itself. This moment is the self. This moment is you without your story. It is the stillness, the simplicity of being, just as it is. And it takes to come to the stillness between things, between breaths, between words, between thoughts, to come to the stillness that is between every single thing, that is before every single thing, in order to recognize so clearly, in a luminous, shiny way, that who you are is the stillness. To be the stillness is not an experience that comes and goes. It is a complete shift in perspective away from the whole conceptual idea of being someone that is looking for something, trying to achieve something, that is on a journey. It's the complete letting go of all ideas, all concepts, letting go of everything, so that the focus of stillness upon itself, we could say awareness upon itself, is so intense that there is nothing else. There is nothing else. It is to come to clear seeing, the clear perspective. And of course, there is no one that can do this. So it is about receiving the resonance as these words come, because these words are the stillness. These words are the silence. These words are the true one that you are speaking to you, the self speaking to itself, coaxing itself into gentle, clear remembering of what is true. It is to forget about all that the me thinks they are here for. It is to forget about me entirely and just be here so fully, so open, wanting nothing, desiring nothing. Can only come to God, can only come to Ma when you want nothing. This is true surrender, is to want nothing, but to be here so fully. All that can be here is the aliveness of your longing. And the aliveness of true longing is not a wanting, it's not a desire. It is an alive quality of the presence that you are, that is alive and gets interpreted as a longing. It is the aliveness of your heart, that which you already are, alive and resonating, calling you to remember the truth of who you are. So we are not speaking of an experience that the me has. It's not about the me getting anything. We are speaking about coming to a recognition on the pure level of being, where the being is the knowing, being itself. Only the being can be the being. Only silence can know silence. Only the stillness can know its utter stillness. That is the simple presence of being. So as these words come, it is just to feel the resonance. And where there is recognition, where there is an aliveness of resonance, it is not to try to understand, not to give anything to the mind, but to be so alive in the resonance of what is recognized, so that stillness can be itself, fully be itself. You fall between the cracks of all things and discover the true nature, the ultimate perceiver, the ultimate principle. That is the true one that just is. As you feel the resonance, that which recognizes truth just as an aliveness, as presence, it's to let it have you, let it take you, to let go into that which is, without knowing what that means or how to, just letting go into this moment, feeling the felt sense of presence, of being here. To feel the felt sense of presence is to come as close as you can and to be the offering. Cannot go any further by will, cannot go any further. The closest that you can come is to feel the presence of being here. That the felt sense of presence is just simply here, just being. When you feel yourself here now, just being, there's a simplicity that the felt sense of existence just is, just simply is. Can feel it because you are it. And then it is to just rest here. Rest here as the aware being that is watching all that is moving and changing. Not as a doing, but as the simplicity of awareness that is just aware. Aware of all that is moving and changing. Aware of thoughts that come and go. Aware of body sensations and tensions. Aware of stories. Aware of sense perception. But way more importantly, aware of just being. Aware of simply being aware. When awareness that is aware of all that is moving and changing drops into its own lap, when it falls into itself, when awareness falls into the recognition that awareness is aware of itself, this is where everything opens beyond, opens to before, opens to what is. When awareness is simply aware of being aware, there is a quality of presence that is here, that is deeper than can ever be approached. It is a falling in, a falling into yourself. You are the aware being. play of being someone is just a simple forgetting. It is a simple misunderstanding. And out of that misunderstanding, a whole life blossoms. But it is not the true blossoming. It is a blossoming born of misunderstanding. And then in that life, all that is longed for, all that is yearned for, is the true blossoming. There is a knowing that this life, being a me, living a life with life happening to me, that this is not the full picture. There is a deep knowing, and that deep knowing is truth, because the life of the me is not the full picture, and that longing is for the true blossoming. It is to truly, truly know the eternal, timeless nature of being, to be the awake field, to be the true one, to be the true self that just is. The essence of all beings is being itself. There is no separation. There is no division. There are no fragments. There is just the being itself. And everything is conspiring for this wisdom to blossom and flower as knowing, as pure, simple knowing. And so in every moment, it is to choose truth, to say yes to what is. It is not about turning away from life, we could say. It is about living life as life itself. The mind says, how? It is not a question that can be answered. It is to come to the being, recognize that what is just simply is, and then be aware of all that plays, and don't resist. Just be still and watch. Be silently aware of what is moving as life. Surrender the habit to want and need and control, and try to orchestrate a life for the me out of the concepts and beliefs and ideas around what is important. It is to feel into what the heart truly longs for, and just be so fully present with the raw essence of that longing. Feel it so fully, so as to be it. Be one with the essence of the longing, because it is only through being so fully here, so present, so still, so innocent and open, that silence can recognize its own nature. That stillness can recognize its still presence. It is a remembering, a recognition. There is light here. There is light here, and it is a lightness. It is the light that lights the way. We could say the whole life lived as someone is an awareness of outer light, of worldly light. And in that orientation, it seems that the inner light is dim, is dark, is something that is not known or recognized. But the inner light is always blazing, is always here. And it is just about turning to the inner light. And when we come to the inner light through being the being, then the inner light is what is lighting the way. It is showing the true path. It is showing that the true path is inward. It is not outward. When the true path is illuminated inward, when the inner light is shining as the being knowing itself, then there is no longer such a pull to the outer light. There is no longer the same kind of allure towards the outer light. It is a pull to know what is the source of light, what is the principle of illumination, by virtue of what does light come into being. It is to turn the orientation to find out what is the source of all of this, to live a life that is questioned in every moment, to live a life as life itself means to be turned to the inner light that is guiding the way, where there is no one that knows, but your knowing acts as the illumination of the inner light, and the guidance is inside. And this guidance is the Satguru. This guidance is God, is grace, is Ma, is Mother. This inner guidance is the inner light that is guiding you into yourself, all the way into yourself. It is not a light that the me can find. It is not a worldly light. It is a lightness of being. There has to be a surrender of outer light. Outer light feels safe, but it is a false safety. You cannot change one for the other. This is not a trading post. You cannot bargain with God. You cannot hold a safe edge of what the me knows while you set everything up. This is where we could say the test of what is truly longed for, because what you truly are, you already are, but it can only be known when there is a willingness to leave everything behind in order to know yourself. This has to actually happen only for an instant, a nano instant, in order for clear seeing to open. Because once clear seeing has opened, it never ever closes. And this is the light. This is the light of being. This is the light that gets often referred to as awakening. But it's not someone that awakens. It is a clear seeing of silence, seeing silence. Clear seeing, clear vision is the being knowing itself. And in that moment of clear seeing, there is illumination. And it illuminates the inner light to some degree, right? So the degree to which the inner light gets illuminated in a moment of clear seeing is very, very variable. It can be a tiny little glimpse. It can be a huge, huge opening. It does not matter. A little glimpse will do it. A little glimpse will shift everything, will shift the perspective deeply enough for there to be a compelling pull into that light. And as that light becomes more and more brilliant and more radiant, the light of your knowing, as it becomes more and more radiant, the pull to the inner light, to the inner, we could say, sanctuary of true conscious being, is so much more alluring than the light of the world that feels to be safe and known. Come to recognize that it is not what you thought it was out there. That what seems to be out there is just being perceived through the senses and interpreted through the mind, through the brain, right? So when what seems to be out there is being interpreted through the mind of the me, there will always be a fragmentation, can never see clearly what this miracle truly is, can only see a limited view. And that we call world, right? That we call world. It's the dream. World is the ever-moving, changing, experiential dance, the play. We could say when there is a sense of separation, we could say that there's illusion. When there's a sense of knowing, it's a divine play. You see, it's just a perspective of seeing, just a perspective of seeing. So as these words come, where you recognize what is being spoken, where you recognize a quality of truth, it is to fall into the truth through feeling the resonance. The resonance is an aliveness of recognition. It's the alive recognition that says, this is who you are. This is who you are. It is the innermost being recognizing itself on the level of being, not on the level of the me. It is not something that the me understands or gets. The recognition happens on the level of being, and this is the knowing. Being itself, knowing itself. And this is the truth of who you have always been. It is that which is constant, that which has never changed, that which has been your companion. It is yourself without a story. It is yourself without name. It is yourself just as you are in the naturalness of being. It is who you have always been. And this timeless moment, it is who you are. This timeless moment is constantly offering the possibility to be yourself or play the game of suffering, to be yourself or cycle around in the misery of dancing from joy to sorrow. You see, it's recognizable, that cycle of dancing from joy to sorrow. It's the cycle of karma, the cycle of suffering. And it is the game that the me plays. It is coming to an inner conviction that says, no more, no more. I will not play that game anymore. And the depth of conviction does not come from a mind that wants something different. It comes from connecting into this light that we are speaking of. It comes from connecting to yourself. It comes from feeling the resonance of truth as the truth of who you are. It comes from feeling an alive quality of presence, of recognizing that quality. And from this, there is a conviction that comes forward that says, nothing else will do. I will not live this lie. I will not live this worldly game of wanting and desiring for another second. I will not leave myself. I will not abandon love. I will not abandon Ma. I will not be fooled by this mind that has learned to play a game of false security, a wanting game. I will not leave what is true. I will not leave myself. And then it is to feel the aliveness of that conviction. Feel the aliveness of the conviction. It's the fire. It's the fire inside you. It is the light that is inside you. And it is this light, this fiery light, that has to be illuminated in order to light the way. Let us say that lighting the way, it is a quality of subtle perception that is beyond and deeper than sense perception. It is the ability of consciousness to subtly perceive itself that allows there to be a subtle perception that there is even the possibility of this path, that there is even the possibility of turning inward in this way. This is a quality of the open secret because it's open to all beings. It's not an exclusive path. It is absolutely open equally to all beings. And yet there has to be the subtlety of perception born out of the conviction, the falling into the longing, and we could say a refinement of the nervous system to be able to hold a quality of presence that allows, we could say, this subtle perception to even be possible. If this subtle perception is not here, the mind will hear these words and they will be bored. The mind will be bored, or the mind will say, oh, that's too much talking for me. I want to practice in this way, right? Because the mind wants a practice. The mind wants a path that is meaningful to the me. But these are the traps, right? The mind wants something that gives the me meaning. The mind wants a path that the me says, oh, I can do that. I can do that successfully. That I can do, right? The mind wants to sit in a lawn chair and watch the spiritual path and receive qualities of teaching that it feels comfortable in, that give it meaning, that give it something to think about, to chew over, to discuss with my friends, right? I want to chat about spirituality. I want to chat about the spiritual path and how I'm progressing, right? But this is not a progressive path. This is a direct path. The only way to know yourself and to be fully free of ego is to surrender all ideas of progression, surrender all ideas of step by step, big toe in, foot in, ankle in. It doesn't work like that. You are not choosing. You are not controlling. You have nothing to do with how this works. You can only make yourself as available as possible for grace and to stand naked of concept, stand naked of ideas, all experience, all wants and desires. You can only stand completely naked and invite a depth of surrender where you are taken, where you are taken. And for an instant, everything disappears. And then the true perspective is seen, right? This is what is being invited. Of course, you cannot do as these words come. It is to come to feel a quality of resonance where the hairs stand on end, the ears prick up, the eyes become as big as saucers, and the heart is so wide open and blazing and saying, yes, yes, take me, let me be that one that you carry today into that truth. Let me be the one that gives up the me here and now. Of course, it is not a game you can win. You do not know what it takes. Frustrating to the mind. You cannot do everything right. You cannot tick all of the boxes in the way the me has learnt to tick. You cannot be, we could say, a good student. You cannot be good in the way that the mind thinks you need to be good. You can only be here now with a pure heart, such a pure heart that wants nothing more than this truth, that mind is purified into the purity of heart, that says, take me into you, obliterate me into you, devour me into you, breathe me into you, where there is no longer a me, where there is only you. It is to feel the resonance of the aliveness, of the blazing fire of longing. Feel it as you're longing. Feel the resonance of longing as you're longing. Say yes to the light that is blazing inside you. Say yes to the light that is already a light illuminated inside you. These words are just the divine invitation. There's no one that can give you this. There's no one here that is giving you something that you are not already. This form is just a vehicle in service. This vehicle is just here to illuminate and fan the flames of your own deep longing. It is to recognize your reflection in this longing, in this truth, in this light. Recognize your reflection. Recognize where there is a sameness, where you no longer see somebody here that has something that you want, where you see only yourself, where you feel only the illumination of your own truth, where you are feeling the alive resonance of yes, 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 where you can feel the stillness, you can feel the silence, can feel the aliveness of the presence that just is, of who you are, of who you have always been. This truth is the one truth. It is the truth of all beings. There is no one here that is speaking truth. There is truth itself. Truth itself just is. Just is. It is to recognize who you have always been. Awakening is to wake up out of the slumber of being a me. Wake up out of that slumber and say, no more slumber, no more of that. No more of that delusion. No more of that wanting things that give the ego substance and security. It's to see Let us say it is to see all of the ways that the ego continues to secure itself, that offers the possibility of recognizing who you are not, as you eliminate all of the ideas of who you thought you were by recognizing that I am not. That name, that form of the body, I am not. That story, that belief, I am not. That role in life, I am not. How do you recognize and eliminate that? You eliminate it by being here so fully as the aware being, as the presence that can see the story, can see the thoughts, can see the character. Be aware of thoughts, be aware of body, be aware of the story. And as the aware being, shine the light and recognize, if I am this light that is shining upon and simply aware of the name I am not, if I am simply here now aware of the body and all of the sensations of body, then the body and sensations I am not. If I am aware of that thought that says I have this role in the world, then that I am not. I am that which is perceiving all of this. I am seeing all of this from somewhere where I am not identified with any of that. If I can see it from here as awareness, then that I am not. And it is to eliminate everything that you think you are and see clearly as the aware being that I am not. Let us bring it to spirituality. That awakening experience that I remember way back when, that I am not, right? It's so important. The one who I thought I was, that I am not. The things that I think I have to do tomorrow, that I am not. Everything that you think you are, if you are aware of it, confirm that is not who you are, and eliminate. You are not the person that you think you are. It is not to allow the mind to come in and say, oh, but you cannot understand this truth until you are this truth. So there's no point trying to create strategies for how to live the life, for how to be a person that knows this truth, because the two do not exist simultaneously, right? We could say you are one or the other, but not even that is true. You are only ever the one. If you believe you are the someone, then that too is part of the whole, but it is a misunderstanding. You cannot be both. You cannot be one or the other, but that is the perception. That is the perception that sense perception brings into place, where sense perception is a me. It's the first thought of the me. The first thought about the me that is believed gets that engine up and running, and before you know it, there's a whole life in place that the me believes to be true. Can only see through this by coming to this moment so fully being here now. So fully being here now as the presence of being, so as to see through the illusion of separation and to come to the knowing of being that can see the divine play, can still be fooled by the divine play, but that is then seen to be the process of refinement, the process of unity, because the light that has illuminated the inner path is already lit, and the light is knowing the aware being you are. It is knowing the consciousness that you are, being the conscious being that you are. Consciousness, being consciousness, is the true nature of consciousness consciously recognizing itself. So let us see how simple this is, right? Ready? Ready here now. Ready here now to be the conscious being consciously recognizing itself. Feel yourself here now. Feel your own presence here now. How do you know you are here? Where do you go to recognize that you are here? You know you are here. Feel your here-ness. Feel the presence of being here. Feel the simplicity. Recognize that it has no name, has no story, has no qualities other than just simply being. Can you confirm this? If you answer yes, then you are consciously conscious of being here. You are conscious of your own presence. This is not a mind that is consciously aware. The mind is not able to be consciously aware. So as you are conscious of your own presence here now, feel that when you recognize this, it brings a quality of resonance that moves away from the simplicity of just feeling to a subtlety which is like an aliveness in the presence. Okay, come to the felt sense of being, the felt sense of being. Be aware of being. Be consciously aware of being. Recognize as you are consciously aware of being, there is an aliveness that comes, which is a subtle shift from feeling yourself to being consciously aware. There's a subtlety. So don't look for it with the mind. Come to the felt sense, and at the felt sense of being here, you can feel yourself here, yes. You know you are here, yes. Can feel your own presence, yes. How do you know you are here? You are aware of being here, aware of being here, aware of being here. Feel that as that subtle aliveness comes in, there's a shift, a subtle shift in the quality that feels like an expansion, like an opening. Your nature feels very open and without limit. Starts to feel vaster than just your body. It feels vaster than that original felt sense of presence. Feels to be everywhere. We could say it's nowhere. It's not at a particular location. The felt sense of being is everywhere. There are no limits. There are no boundaries. And recognize how you are recognizing this. This is your consciousness, consciously being consciously aware of itself. And when consciousness is consciously aware of itself, it just feels its own aliveness as being everywhere, as being nowhere, as not being a thing, as not being identified at a singular point of the body, of not being defined by the mind. You feel yourself everywhere. You are still and constant in your own presence, and yet you are alive as that presence, knowing itself. The aliveness becomes more and more alive. As you feel the aliveness, be very present to the aliveness. Fall into the aliveness of your own presence. Notice how you are aware of this aliveness. Come to the subtlety of simply being. Yes, awareness is aware of mind and body. Awareness is aware of thoughts and all of that which is moving and changing. But we turn the attention away from watching the moving, changing. So attention falls into itself, and attention becomes aware of simply being. Awareness is aware of just being here. Are you here? Yes. How do you know? Where do you go to find out? Feel that where you go is a part of yourself. You reference your own conscious awareness. You're not referencing the mind. You're referencing your own conscious awareness that confirms that you are here. It's got nothing to do with the mind or the body. And there is an aliveness here. There is a subtle aliveness here. It is to feel the subtle aliveness. Be one with the subtle aliveness. Feel that you are the aliveness. That the felt sense of who you are, the felt sense of yourself, without a name, without a story, the felt sense of yourself is exactly the same as the felt sense of yourself that you have always had. It's just empty in this moment of story. It's quiet from all of that mental activity. It's focusing upon its own presence. You are focusing upon your own presence. You are consciously aware of your own conscious presence, just simply being here. And you are still and simple. There is peace and calm, tranquility that is just here. There are no edges to who you are. You feel yourself. You remember yourself. You remember that this is who you have always been, before the name and story, before the idea of character and me and mine. This is who you have always been. And right here now, consciousness itself is consciously aware of that and confirms in its own innermost direct experience of being. Yes, yes, this is what I am. This is who the I am is. You feel the I am presence before any thought. You feel the I am presence just as it is, raw, naked openness, emptiness. Emptiness is empty of story, empty of thought, empty of someone, just emptiness, openness. And there is equanimity here. There is harmony here. There is simplicity here. There is honesty here. And honesty is the simple truth to not deny who you are, to not deny this truth, to feel the subtlety of your own being, and to open to this honesty that remembers who you have always been, and stops denying and telling the story through the mind, right? So when there is a readiness, this recognition comes in, but you are here now. You are here now, and you cannot force this, but you can be here now. Be here now. Feel as deeply as you are available for. Feel your longing. Say yes. Say yes. And if thought comes in, if mind comes in, come to being aware of that. Do not try to push thoughts away. You do not need to. That is a mechanism of mind trying to create a practice out of this, and it's not correct. You do not need to push anything away. Just to be here and be aware of a thought. As you are aware of thought, you are vaster than thought. You are the vast space in which thought is coming and going. You are the spaciousness in which thoughts come and go. You are the wide open space that is before thought, untouched by thought. This is the truth of who you are. This is the truth of who you have always been. And when you feel yourself here now, there is a remembering, a recognition, and it brings a deep inner knowing, a deep inner knowing that says, yes, yes, yes. As this knowing comes more and more alive, there can be heat and more aliveness. If this recognition has already happened in you, then you will recognize the truth as you already know it, and you will feel the aliveness way, way alive as you're knowing. You know this, so do not doubt this. If you are alive in this knowing, then you will feel the alive flow. You will feel the alive flow of your knowing. So let the aliveness flow. Let it come more and more alive, flowing within itself, knowing itself. Allow the light to shine its radiant brilliance. Don't ever let mind doubt, because this knowing can be here. And yet, as we move through this deepening into the landscape of consciousness, the mind can come in and say, oh, maybe I do, maybe I don't. But let us know that if there's a mind that does that, then this recognition has not pierced itself all the way through yet. And that's okay, because in perfect timing, it will pierce itself all the way through, and the radiant light of knowing will shine its truth. So you come in as deeply as your knowing allows. But you feel the knowing, because to feel your knowing is to drink in the nectar of being yourself. You feel the resonance. You stay close to the resonance. The resonance is subtle. It's deeper than feeling. It's the being knowing itself on the level of being. Feel the depth of knowing. Feel the depth of knowing. Feel the aliveness of your knowing. Feel the light of your knowing. Your knowing is the most precious. Even if it's a small spark, or if it's a blazing fire, your knowing is your sanctuary, the sanctuary of being. Conditioning can still play. The divine play will keep playing itself out. It's not to doubt the truth of who you are in the face of the play playing itself out. But come to clarity now. Is who you are separate in any way from this felt sense of being? Can you feel the sense of knowing that who you are is the boundless being? Can you feel the truth that says yes, yes, yes? Feel the truth resonating. Say yes and yes and yes. The deeper that your knowing is illuminated, we could say the quality of longing shifts to a quality of devotion. It's the same, but it's like a maturation, we could say, a deeper ripening of the longing has a quality which becomes finer, and that finer quality of longing is devotion. It's a pure devotion that's saying yes and yes and yes, that's turned inward, that knows that the path is following the light inward into the deeper value of knowing your true nature. There can be a value of knowing true nature. There can be a value of knowing true nature, but there is an ever deepening possibility to refine and refine and refine. And that is where the play of life is not to be avoided, that life itself is conspiring to take you deeper, carry you deeper. And this is not a progressive path. It's recognizing that life is the flow of grace. Life is the flow of grace that is carrying you deeper and deeper into yourself. It is refining, eliminating. It is perfecting, purifying all of the subtle threads that can distract, that move from conditioning. It's purifying mind so that mind can drop more deeply into heart. So there are so many subtle nuances to this opening. We could say that every being is having a completely unique, subtle unfolding of their petals. And yet there are, of course, commonalities, because there is one consciousness coming to remember itself consciously, one being knowing itself. But all of the subtleties of how this unfolds is very, very unique. This is not a path that satisfies anything in the ego. And that is why this direct path does not offer anything. That is why if the me wants something, it will not be satisfied with this kind of satsang, because the me that wants something, it wants to be in a teaching where it feels like it's getting something, where it has meaning, where it can qualify itself, right? A teaching that gives the ego meaning is a progressive path that will only ever go round and around. It will take you so far, But when you are ready to know yourself, you have to surrender all attempts of the ego to want to maintain itself by wanting spiritual teachings that give it meaning and make it comfortable. You cannot even know when there is a readiness for this. The readiness comes all by itself. For those that are regular in this satsang, the readiness is here. The readiness is here because if you can listen to this, if you can rest as openness and receive the resonance of what is being offered, invited, then there is a readiness. If you have better things to do, then do those other things. Because if the mind thinks it has other ways, other ways that are more satisfying for the ego, things that give the ego experience and makes it feel comfortable, give it meaning, then it needs to exhaust those paths. It needs to exhaust those possibilities, right? Because if the ego thinks it has any way within the play of the world to get what it wants, it will follow that possibility and it will enjoy sitting in the lawn chair and taking in the enjoyable practices that make me feel good, right? So there is a purity, okay? It's a purity that when you're really ready to know yourself, you no longer want to be distracted. You no longer want to be distracted. You want to know yourself, and all you want is to know yourself. Then you are ready. Then there is a readiness. The readiness comes when you recognize there is nothing in this true unfolding for the me. Nothing for the me. It is the devouring of the me into the being. This is a sign. The other sign is a willingness and a readiness to receive all of life in service, to receive all of life and to meet everything that life offers with no resistance in service. The willingness to do, we could say, this deep work of refinement is another sign of readiness, right? Because this is not offering anything for the ego. It's not a barter system. It's not a bargaining with God. It's not a bargaining with yourself. It's a surrender. And true surrender is a complete and utter submission, right? Sometimes we make that surrender. We make that submission and we say, yes, this is all I want. Because it comes from the aliveness of longing. It comes from pure devotion. It comes from a recognition of what it truly takes. And it takes everything. It takes everything. What does God want? What does Mother want? She wants all of you. She wants everything. Love wants everything. Do not be fooled. Do not be fooled. You cannot keep a little bit over here in a security box and say, that's what I'll come back to if this doesn't work out. No, because the all-seeing one knows that you've got a strategy, right? The all-seeing one knows the strategy. What does it take? What does it take? So we can recognize that we come to these moments of surrender so often when life brings us to our knees. When we are in a quality of challenge that has brought a quality of surrender, then we say, take it all, what do you want? And actually this is a true surrender. This is a true surrender as deeply as you can surrender in that moment. And it's so profoundly purifying. This is why the moments in life where we are so challenged, where we feel like we've lost, and we come to this surrender, it's so profoundly purifying, because there's a truth that says, what do you want? There's nothing else here. And in that we recognize that when the me is not getting what it wants, when the me is disappointed, when the me feels disabled, disarmed, like it can't get what it wants, then this quality of surrender, there's a recognition, an aliveness that comes in, that recognizes presence. It may not be a conscious recognizing of presence, but there's a sobering moment where true surrender comes. You might recognize in those moments of surrender, it comes as peace. It feels like the tears just stop. The anger, the stress just stops. And there's this pervasive peace that comes, that you feel like you're living through your greatest horror, and yet suddenly there's peace, and you feel that you're here, and it's okay. It's that, like a dawn where you wake up to live another day, right? Sounds dramatic, but the me is dramatic in those moments, right? But these are profound, profound moments. And that is why so often it takes for life to bring us to our knees, for us to turn more deeply to ask the deeper questions. But what we're speaking of here is feeling this inner fire, not in a moment of challenge or tragedy, not in a moment where the me is not getting what it wants, to feel the aliveness of surrendering into what is truly longed for, because the fire, the inner light of your longing is blazing so profoundly. We could say that the play doesn't need to bring you to your knees, that you can recognize a quality of surrender that says, yes, 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 this is all that is longed for. Submission is not something that we have learned to say yes to. The ego sense is protection. We have learned to protect and not to submit, not to trust, not even in the divine, not even in, we could say, God or Mother or the Self, not even in our true nature, right? And so that is why living in protection is the habit that keeps the ego sense alive, because it's all the same. The ego is the contractive, protective sense of being someone. The ego sense cannot understand what it means to surrender or to be in submission. So that is why it's the edge of ego sense, the edge of protection, the edge of protection, where there's a quality of surrender, which is the stillness of utter presence, where there's no protection in place, where there's a surrender, a submission to being here so fully, an openness that is so completely open. It's like an opening completely of the aperture so that all the light comes in just for a moment. it can close again. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Because once all the lights come in, you know, it never closes completely again. But can you feel the resonance of what is being spoken? The edge of protection, letting go, feeling, we could say qualities of fear, of surrender. You feel the qualities of letting go of protection, of vulnerability. You feel the qualities of all of that, and you come to a presence that is alive. The me says, no, 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 do not trust this, do not trust this, do not trust this. Heart says, let go, let go, let go. This, because you can feel a quality deep enough of your own presence. You can feel it. So you're saying yes, 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 because you recognize this that is true. And you're right in this in-betweeny space where you're almost unprotected and you're feeling a quality. You're feeling a quality of your true nature. And it brings heat and fear and aliveness. And the mind and the me and the protection is saying, no, 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 no. And that part of you that recognizes is saying, yes, 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 let go, let go, let go, let go. So we're bringing like a microscope, a magnifying glass to this moment of true submission, true surrender, so that you can feel the subtle quality of being on the edge of letting go. Can recognize at that moment of letting go, the mind will come in and it will bring in something, right? Recognize that. Recognize it brings something in. So you have to be so still that you can recognize every strategy. You have to be so still that you can see that strategy in the moment that the outstretched hand of God is saying, let go into yourself. You have to have the openness, so open that you do not move towards that subtle thought that pulls you away. It's so fine. It's so, so fine. So, as you come to the edge, and you feel the exhilaration of being here now, so present, so here. Can feel the being, can feel the knowing. You're right at the edge. And the mind says, no, you see, you have to be so still, not move away from the edge. Stay at the edge. Stay at the edge and watch what happens. Be aware. Do not move from the edge. Be aware and do not move. Feel the exhilaration. Feel your knowing. Feel your knowing. Feel the light. Feel the truth, the resonance. Keep saying yes and yes and yes. Say yes and yes and yes. Oh, and there's something else, and there's something else. Keep being aware of all the subtleties that come in. This is the edge. There's not really even an edge here, but it feels like an edge. It's the edge of protection. It's the edge of the subtlety where separation starts to feel like a manifest reality. But simultaneously, you can feel the infinite, boundless expanse of the true reality. You can feel your knowing. And this feels so beautiful. It feels like love. It feels like peace. It's happiness with no cause. Can start to feel the subtlety of this. Say yes, and fall in. Fall in. Feel the aliveness. The aliveness gets more and more alive. It starts to rise. It starts to feel alive in every single cell of your being. Every cell is alive and on fire, saying yes, yes, yes. when there is a readiness, the heat rises, the heat expands. It's the fire of yourself coming to devour everything. So it is to allow, to allow. Do not turn back now. Be aware, see how easy it is to turn back. Where are you now? Have you turned back? Can feel that many of you have turned back. You might think you are here and you are present, but you are not. You have turned back. You have turned back because the me and the thought is more alluring than to truly know yourself. So this is where honesty and subtlety of feeling is so important, to be so subtly here now. Feel the aliveness, feel the presence of being. Be so clear here now. Feel the beauty, feel the beauty, feel your knowing. Drink in the nectar of where you are. Drink in the nectar of where you are. If you are ready, jump. If you are not, just stay here and watch. Stay here and watch. Let us be honest. You are not choosing to jump. You are suddenly swallowed. And you realize that you jumped. You know, like when you're on the edge about to jump off a cliff into deep water and you're not sure if you're going to do it. You're not sure. You're not sure. You're trying to decide. You're trying to get ready. You're trying to get ready. And suddenly you're in the water and you don't remember making that choice because something else happened. Something else happened. You left the protection and the safety and something else carried you. And suddenly you're floating. You're floating in the most incredible clear water of being yourself. So we are getting ready. We are getting ready here for the immersion. We are getting ready for the immersion into being. So we are resting here, right at the edge. We are resting in the deep flowing aliveness, ready to be so fully immersed so that there is no longer someone that is immersed, that there is just the ocean of being and the blissful flow of being the ocean. You are the ocean of being. There is not someone here. You are the vast ocean of being. Be here flowing as your true self. And now feel the silent presence. Feel the silence, the aliveness of the silence. The field is enlivened. You are the field. Feel the stillness of your own presence. Feel where we are the same. Be one with the being that you are. Just rest. Just rest.